Hello, everyone. My guest today is Grace Doyle, an operations expert who believes that when your business runs well, you get to actually enjoy the work you've built. Grace started her journey in a small design startup and eventually became the COO of a multi-brand company with over 80 employees. Now, through her consultancy, Ops by Grace, she helps founders build smarter systems so they can grow their business and feel good doing it. I'm so excited to have her here. Grace, welcome to the show. How are you feeling about being here today?
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad you accepted my invitation. And also, I was even more glad when I learned that it was on your list to record a podcast this year.
Yes,
So,
I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time, every day. Early in the year, I had taken some time to write goals, and one of them was to be a guest on a podcast at some point in 2025. So you're helping me check something off my list, so I appreciate it.
this is manifestation, I think. So,
Passive manifestation.
yes, perfect. Is it something you do every year to write down your goals or more often? How does that work?
I think I've approached it differently in different years. The last couple of years, I think there's been a trend to kind of set a word of the year. And then this year was the first new year, January 1st, in my new business. So I had kind of planned to take some time away solo. I booked an Airbnb in a tiny little town in Quebec, and I went for a few days solo just to get organized, map out my calendar, think about what I wanted to do with the business, what I thought was working, what wasn't working from, the first sort of half year as Ops by Grace. I also just get a ton of work done. Anything that's like lingering from 2024, I was able to just close out and send off and really start the year fresh. And it was at that retreat that I did some goal setting and sort of short, medium, and long-term planning.
That sounds like exactly what I need. I've been doing this one time and I feel it needs to be a recurring trip. Did you know how to plan for your goals for the year? Did you research and took a framework from someone else? How did you arrange your retreats?
I love to consume content around whatever it is in life that I'm interested in at the moment. So, for example, when I was planning my trip to Italy, I was watching videos constantly of people's trips through Italy or planning or packing. And so in the lead up to the new year, I watch a lot of content and consume a lot of content, podcasts, YouTube episodes about goal planning and, new year reset and rebrand yourself in 2025. And I think that I consume a lot of that content passively, like as I'm going for my walk in the morning or having my coffee. And then I don't necessarily choose one framework. I think that I absorb through osmosis all of those different ideas and strategies and work pages and workbooks that people talk about. And then I sort of sit down and I'm influenced by everything, but I'm not necessarily following one specific framework. I know that this past year when I did it, it was more free flowing. I just kind of sat down and thought about, okay, what do I want to do in the first quarter of the year, the first half of the year, and then by the end of the year. And that was really my only framework. And then I kind of brain dump. So I don't think too hard. I just write everything down. And then I sort of went through a process of going back after and thinking, okay, is this realistic? Is this something I really feel passionate about? Is this something I want to pour energy into? And I ended up with, with a few things in each category that felt doable and manageable. And, some of them I've let go of, some of them have changed. I'm trying not to be too strict about them.
Absolutely. I think we need to take action, maybe think a little bit less and take action a little bit more, and then see that something doesn't bring the results that we were looking for or the joy that we expected. And then we just let go of them and reframe. We're recording this episode in July 2025. Do you have a practice of revisiting your goals during the year, or is it more of an end of year beginning of the year exercise?
Again, I think I'm not super structured. I love the YouTube videos of content creators who do a monthly check-in and go through their spreadsheet and talk about what they've done and not done. I find that really motivating and inspiring, but it's just not necessarily the way that I work best. But as we were saying in our pre-recording call, I had found the documents. And so I spent a few minutes looking through them and just kind of checking in on, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh, okay, I completely abandoned that. And one of them was to get out and be a guest on someone's podcast. And you emailed me the next week. So it was very
Wow.
nice.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy when moments like this happen. So you're yourself a female entrepreneur, and you mentioned to me that most of your clients, if not all, are female entrepreneurs as well. Now that you've been over, I think, a year in business, I'm sure you've recognized patterns in the way entrepreneurs organize themselves. Do you have anything? I know it's a vague and broad question, but do you have anything to share about your learnings?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the vision for this business was quite loose when I started. I was coming out of, being with a company for almost a decade that you spoke about in your very generous intro, where I started as junior as you could be, and I worked my way up into an executive leadership position, and the company grew to be quite large. And then I had stepped away from that role, and I had taken another position that ended up being quite short term. It just wasn't a great fit on either side. They were in Toronto. I was the only team member in Ottawa, and it just wasn't a great fit. So I had kind of been there for a few months, and then I was really trying to think about what I wanted to do. And I had always toyed with, in like a very back recess corner of my mind, maybe starting my own business. But I always felt like I wasn't very entrepreneurial, in the sense that I liked to figure out how to make things in businesses work, and I liked problem solving, but I didn't necessarily have a product or an idea or a service that I felt passionately about bringing into the world.
Yeah.
So when I was kind of taking the time off and decided to dip into my savings and take a few months and figure out what I wanted to do, I was sort of casually looking at jobs. Someone had posted on Instagram, that was an acquaintance, that they were looking for just a few hours a week of help to get their business more organized. She was feeling overwhelmed and disorganized and didn't have systems in place, and was looking for someone that could help. Probably was looking for more of like a virtual assistant, for which I probably was, overqualified, but I reached out, and it wasn't about the money. I was bored. I had been working every day for 15 years, and just, it was weird for me to be completely unemployed. So I reached out and was working really casually for her, and then very quickly she referred me to a friend. And for context, this initial very first client was a content creator, and the friend that she referred me to was a photographer. My background in business operations is in design, so I started to see this trend that it was creatives that were coming to me in various areas. I don't know a ton about the neuroscience, but I know that there's some theories, and whether they're debunked or not, I don't know. But this left brain, right brain concept, right? Where, people that are really, really strong creatively, and that emotional side of the brain may not always be as strong in terms of like organization and systems and planning and calendar and time management. And that's not to say at all that creatives, don't possess those skills. I don't like boxing people in, but I would say at a high level, there is that pattern. So what I think that I have sort of by accident niched into is supporting people that are creatives, like artists, people that are starting sort of boutique brands, designers, florists, content creators, podcasters, and helping them ground and tether their amazing vision and goals and dreams into actionable systems. The sexy part, which is the why and the mission and the fire that is in their bellies, I'm sort of the unsexy side, which is like, how do you get stuff done every day? And that, I think, is the definition of operations. People always ask me, like, what do you do? What is operations? And I always say it's everything that needs to get done to make your business work.
And run smoothly.
Yes. Yeah.
And you said it all. It's people contacted you, or they were creating job postings saying that they were feeling overwhelmed Was there any other similar feelings that people were experiencing? And then how did they feel after working with you? Or how do they feel now that they're working with you?
I think overwhelm is a common one. People often start looking for help when they've gotten to a point in their business where they feel over leveraged and they just can't continue. I think another one is paralysis is a big thing that I see. People that are running a small business, especially people that are at the very beginning, so either on their own or maybe they have a small team, are diving into having to manage every single aspect of business. But oftentimes, unless there's someone who's, gone to business school or worked in a corporate role before, have no idea about, supply chain or HR, budgeting and forecasting, systems and standard operating procedure development. That's all language that doesn't even exist in the minds of some people until they're faced with it. So I think a lot of people coming to me kind of knowing what they want for their business, they can see what done and what finished looks like in a certain area. I know I want to hire 2 people in the next year, but I don't know what the budget should be or what the best roles are. Or I know that I am spending too much on my product and not making enough profit. And I want to get to a point where my margin is X or Y. But it's that in between. It's the space between where they are now and where they'd like to be that feels completely paralyzing. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I couldn't even make a to-do list to get to my endpoint if I tried. And so I think my sweet spot is coming in and filling that space.
Yes, that makes complete sense. And I love what you said about paralysis, because I've definitely experienced both of these feelings, feeling overwhelmed and not being able to take action, even though I can see the next step sometimes. And other times, just like you said again, I don't know where to get there. So it's very valuable what you do.
Thank you. I mean, I hope that my clients feel the same way. It's been interesting working with more than one founder, because in a corporate role, I'm ultimately reporting to the CEO or the founder, and I can work with them and learn their needs and their goals and their values over time. Whereas in a consulting capacity, as much as my mission is kind of the same with everyone, which is to alleviate some of that stress and overwhelm and paralysis, how that looks and how that's achieved is different with different people. So, some people are looking to have more time in their calendar. Some people are looking to increase their profit and make more money. Some people are looking to launch a new product or service and don't know where to start. So I hope that in each of those individual cases and beyond, that people are feeling like, they've gotten, maybe I haven't fully closed the gap, but I've gotten them farther along to that desired end state.
Do you find that there's a popular workflow that most women entrepreneurs are missing?
I think that women specifically, and this is definitely part of a larger conversation, but women specifically feel the pressure to do it all and be it all. And by necessity sometimes in business, because if you're bootstrapping something, you are starting with nothing. You don't have necessarily the capital to hire a team. Even freelancing, right? I mean, so many people are writing their own contracts and doing their own bookkeeping and can't afford to get a lawyer to look over your service agreements with clients. So you're hoping that everything goes well. So I think that women in particular, we need to be 10 times better, right? We need to be 10 times more on just to be taken seriously in the same rooms. And I think that entrepreneurs, women, go into their businesses doing everything. And so when I ask, okay, where is that written down? Where does that process exist in your business? It's here, which is great when you're one person. But the thing is, one person, no matter how expansive we can be in our goals and our dreams and our vision, there are only so many hours in the day. And there is only so much energy that we have to expend before we need to rest and sit down and take a break. I think that a big pattern that I see is not having repeatable processes in business, not having a system. Or when I ask them, okay, why is that how it's done? You would be amazed how many people say, that's just how it's done. That's just how it was set up. Or even, founders that maybe are a few more years into the journey and have a team will say things to me like, that's just how it's set up. I don't know. Someone else set that up and that's just how we do it. If you don't know the why of how you're doing something, you don't know if it's the best way or not. It's just a legacy system that may not be serving your goals or your time constraints or your energy constraints.
Would you have an example?
One thing that I do with founders is a process audit. So something that happens over and over again in a business. Let's say it's a product-based business. You know that you have to, in a season, decide what you're going to buy, what the budget is. You have to go either to a buying market or work online with your vendors. You have to make your order. You have to receive it. You have to photograph it, tag it, right? That is a massive workflow from beginning to end where all your products are live and posted and ready to be bought. And I will go through, and at each step I say, okay, what happens next? Through doing that, there have been so many cases where I'll ask, okay, why does that happen? Or why does that happen that way or at that time? And we realize through that process, which is tedious and not so fun, obviously, like I know that it's probably annoying for the people on the other side, but that a step is completely unnecessary, that you're duplicating work, or that we're doing a step that there was a contingency on, but that contingency no longer exists, but we're still doing the step, right? Maybe the tech has improved and there's something that's automated now, but we didn't catch the fact that we have a team member still doing that step and still taking up valuable person hours to get that thing done. So again, it's like, it's minutia, but it adds up. It's cumulative, right? So eliminating one task from one workflow is not going to make or break a company, but 10 tasks from hundreds of workflows, that adds up. And I think that it affects the bottom line in terms of profit, but it also affects the bottom line in terms of like quality of life and stress and how we feel as business owners and founders.
Absolutely. And I needed this reminder because when you started talking about workflows, I definitely see, oh, okay, I did sometimes write down the way I do things. And also I do create templates and even email templates, Canva templates to avoid starting from scratch again. But I didn't have this process of asking myself, is this step important or can it be merged with another one to simplify it? So I really like this tip.
I recommend it to anybody. You can do it for something as simple as, how do your mornings look, to how do you execute like a seasonal project in your business. It's very illuminating.
And I also want to add that right now I'm listening to an audiobook from Marie Forleo, which is called Everything is a Figure Out Table. And she explains a way to fight your excuses. And one of them is, oh, I don't have the time to do this. And she explains that a simple habit like meal planning, maybe buying all the groceries on the weekend and then meal prepping the food on Thursdays and Sundays, will save a significant amount of time. So I'm curious to know if yourself in your personal life, you have systems that helps you save time or reduce your stress load?
Yeah, I do. I would say it would be disingenuous of me to say that I live a perfectly systemized life. For me, I think it's a bit feast or famine. So I will go through phases where my life is very structured and routine based. You know, I have a checklist in my phone of things that I want to do every day to build habit. Or I have, things automated and things feel like a really well-oiled machine. And then I'll have months or frankly, even like years at a time that I don't feel as grounded and rooted in systems. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about the fact that this works and makes a difference, is because I feel it and see it in my own life. Like when I have gotten off track, I feel it. I don't feel like myself. I feel more tired. I feel scattered. I feel that overwhelm and paralysis. But yeah, I mean, there are things like, a few years ago, I tried to overhaul my personal finance situation. I think COVID was a wake-up call for me that when I wasn't going out and spending all my money frivolously, like I actually did have enough money left over at the end of the paycheck, and there was really no need for me to be living paycheck to paycheck. And so automating all of my finances, and I have reminders for certain things that are manual and different check-ins that I do with myself. I have recurring events in my Google Calendar, and I've worked to build a morning routine that really sets me up for success every day. But again, execution is not perfect. I really admire the people who, are productivity influencers and who get up at 4 a.m. every single day and never miss a day. And that's, God love them, but that's not me. But it's aspirational, and I try to do the best that I can.
I'm sure even them, it's not perfect. Nobody's looking for perfection.
No, but I do think that, I don't know, there's an unrealistic portrayal in some kind of corners of the internet or in the like self-improvement, productivity, self-development space. So much of it is like amazing and positive, and I think the net impact is really positive, but I am increasingly mindful about what content I consume, because I think that some of it trickles over into it's competitive or it's performative, and I'm just trying to be careful as I like reintroduce routine and structure more significantly, specifically right now this summer, that I'm allowing myself to be inspired, but just being careful that the voices that are saying it's okay to take a day off or that none of us are perfect are louder than the ones that are showing a different approach, which is extremely rigid and strict and to me less forgiving and less compassionate.
And how do you curate your content to feed your inspiration instead of making it all feel just restrictive?
Well, to be honest, I think the algorithm is helpful. I think they get more sophisticated every day in tailoring content that is going to resonate with you. So I have to give some credit there. I guess I have a radar for productivity practices or self-development principles, I suppose, that are rooted in self-compassion. And I think that for me, I'll put on a YouTube video. I think there's this thing called mirroring. I know that it's big in like the ADHD community. People will talk about how like if you put on a video of someone studying, it makes it easier to study. Or that people who are wanting to clean their house, like I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there are like people that are really successful on YouTube just doing long form 3-hour vlogs of them cleaning their homes. I don't know if I have ADHD. I don't feel like I do, but I really like that. So while I'm doing my morning routine, I'll often put on a video of someone doing their morning routine. But there are definitely videos that I've decided like aren't for me or creators that aren't for me. And I just will, say, okay, thank you. Like I value your work and your time and your vision. It's just not something that resonates with me and is valuable for me. If it feels too rigid, or if I feel that instead of inspiring me, it's making me feel bad or like I should be doing more. That's not where I want to sit.
I love that. And I think it goes to show that we do have control on which content we want to consume. And sometimes the algorithm is actually a friend that keeps showing us what we want to see. I didn't know about these videos. Actually, I think I heard about it, just like I know there are videos of people doing ASMR of them eating food. And
Yeah.
I'm always impressed.
That's not for me, but people love those ones too. But no, I know that this mirroring thing is real. And I believe, and I can try and find it after because I don't want to, misquote anything or misrepresent data, but I believe that I read a study where they studied kind of the impact of doing something really productive, like cleaning your house or cleaning out your car or doing a workout or something. They measured, I don't know if it was through imaging or, self-reporting after doing the fact, but they compared that against the impact of watching somebody do something productive. So watching somebody clean their house or watching somebody do a hard workout, and apparently what's happening in the brain is like very similar. So you're not going to get the full effect, of course, but that's something akin to actually being productive is happening in your mind when you're watching somebody else be productive. And so maybe that's the feedback loop that you almost feel like you're already doing it, and so it helps you engage deeper into your own tasks or projects.
Okay. Yeah. If you find the source, I would be interested in learning more about this. It makes me think of just my nephew is 14 years old and I'm hosting him in Toronto. He's from France. And he keeps telling me, about how he watches videos of other people playing video games. And I'm like, would you rather not just play the video game yourself? So it's maybe it gets the pleasure from just watching someone else do it anyway, which I guess it's good. It makes me sad a bit.
Yeah, there's probably a line, right, where like everything, you talk a lot about about balance. Like there's probably a line between, okay, this is inspiring and it's motivating. It makes me feel a sense of community or a sense of alignment with other people out there in the world, versus like the borderline that you could tip into, I'm actually experiencing via somebody else doing something, and I'm not working out or cleaning my house or playing the game or engaging because I'm kind of using a surrogate for that. So I'm sure that, a neuroscientist would be able to speak to it much more eloquently, but I find it interesting, and in that small way of like enjoying watching people talk about their routines or how they structure their evenings or their mornings or their finances, I can relate to finding that like there's something that like scratches a part of my brain that feels good.
I think you're explaining it very well, so
Oh, well,
thank you. I think it's time for us to move to the Wheel of Life game, and it has 7 categories. Depending on which category we fall on, I will ask a specific questions that we will both answer. Let's go. Okay, our category for the first question is work, career, mission. Grace, how do you define success for yourself today?
That's a big question. And I definitely, as a person, have a tendency to try to capture every tiny little piece of a thought and all the nuance. So I'm going to resist that temptation and go with my gut. And right now, success for me, I am defining by how well I'm taking care of myself. Because earlier this year, I think that I was not in a place where I was taking great care of myself, just in terms of like diet and exercise and doing the things that I know are good for me, like connecting with people and engaging with my friends and family and things like that. So I think a really good day for me right now is when I've done the things that I know make me feel good and strong and energized. I guess that sounds kind of selfish, like I'm defining success only by how I'm treating myself and how I feel. But I think and I hope that the impact of that allows me to be more successful in other areas of my life. And one can't really happen without the other, as I'm realizing. So when I'm taking really good care of myself, I'm a better partner, I'm a better friend, I'm a better dog mom. I am much better for my clients, much more on the ball and productive and responsive. I'm able to move through projects and batches of work more efficiently. So at its core, I suppose it's about me, but I do think that I show up better in the world when I have had a day where I've done all the right things. And all the right things is going to be different for everyone. I'm certainly not trying to say that there are right things to do in a day, but the right things for me, I'm going to bed feeling good when I've done all of them or most of them.
I feel completely the same way. First, I'm happy. I'm glad that you found this balance, or you're taking better care of yourself these days. That's amazing. Also, for what you said about it may be selfish, I just want to share that for so long, many years, I would hear that I was myself being selfish for moving to Canada, or even staying in Canada instead of moving back to France after my studies and going after my dreams. And eventually I was doubting myself. I was asking myself, am I selfish? But eventually I cut down the people who were saying that. And maybe I surrounded myself with content telling me I wasn't selfish for taking care of myself, and maybe that's why. But I mean, just like you said it, you take better care of yourself, and then you can be a better partner, a better dog mom, I love that, a better entrepreneur, and be there for your clients. So I think at the end of the day, is it selfish when you take care of yourself, but it ends up helping everybody around you? I don't think so.
I know. And I think that that's another thing that I think perhaps is not unique to women, but that I see more in the women that I work with and in the women in my life is that it's harder for us to see taking care of ourselves and prioritizing ourselves and having boundaries that we're able to stick to as being something other than selfish, as being ultimately like pouring into ourselves so that we can pour into others. I think that there's a lot of messaging to be constantly giving and constantly available to those around us. And I think there's beauty in that. And life is about being generous with your time and your spirit. But yeah, I just know that for me, I cannot do that. My capacity is not infinite, and I do better when I'm taking care of her.
Yeah. I'm glad you do. It reminded me a conversation I had on this podcast, which will be published soon. It was with Jyoti. She said that we should give from the overflow of our cup. So we
Right.
should fill our cup, give what's over it, because then we don't need it. It's there.
Yeah, it's a great image. We can cultivate for ourselves the more we have to give. And that's kind of built into the branding of Ops by Grace. Like the imagery on my Instagram and everything is kind of inspired by Italy and the Mediterranean. And I loved being in Italy because I think they are amazing at boundaries. Like you'll just show up to a shop and there's a handwritten note on the door like at the beach, back tomorrow and things like that. And it's just so different from the corporate world that we exist in. And so I've tried to build that in, not only because it's where I'm at in my life and I want boundaries and I want balance, but also to model that to my clients, because I don't think that I can coach and advise on balance and, efficiency and setting boundaries in business if I can't walk the walk.
Absolutely. This is a great example. Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, I've seen it. I was in Italy a few weeks ago, and I do remember just it's lunchtime, and then there are nice clothing stores, and you want to just go there, and it's like, no, we're closed from, I don't know, noon to 3 p.m.
Yes, yeah, or it's
Yes.
quite common like that they'll close for a couple of weeks in the winter or in the summer to go on holiday. And money is not the bottom line all the time. Like quality of life and connection and pleasure are upheld in a way that I think we don't do as good of a job of upholding in North American hustle culture, for lack of a better term. So I'm trying to live what I preach imperfectly.
Absolutely. And same here. And I will answer the question as well, which
I'd love
was,
to hear your answer.
how do you define success for yourself today? I define success when I feel simply good and I have peace of mind. I mean, currently I have a plan, just like you shared, for my physical health, for family time or relationship, and for my career. I have a plan, and when I do show up every day a little bit for it, then I feel good about it because I know it's moving in the good direction. And some days I don't. Actually, these past few days I've been challenged because in order for me to bring more family into my life, I suggested that I would host my 14-year-old nephew in Toronto. I thought that I could work only on mornings and we would go out on afternoons. So we've been doing this for a week and I feel so behind my
Right.
work that actually I'm doing my dream job. This interview is my dream job, even though there's not a paycheck yet or like money coming for it. But it's not even that I feel like I have to work. It's just I'm not showing up for myself by doing my dream job. And so I feel a bit unbalanced these days. And I'm trying to test new schedule options to see how I can manage having a good time with my nephew, but also still making progress in my business.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Do you feel, though, that balance has to be that every piece of the pie has an equal size at all times? Or could a form of balance be like maybe it's not your best work week, but you're showing up as an aunt and a family member in a more significant way? And so the balance can be across time and space versus all at once.
Yeah, I think it's what I'm learning with these interviews. Each time I have one of these conversations, the term work-life balance is being challenged Some other guests call it harmony, with this idea that it's not equal parts, but eventually it's going to balance the other way. And then again, I think it's definitely not equal parts every day, but somehow I still feel not my best right now. So just like you said, it's not perfection. I am trying currently to lean into, well, it is what it is. And I'm spending more time with my nephew these days, and it's great. I should enjoy it, be in the moment, and kind of shut down these voices saying I'm not making as much progress on my business, but it's difficult. Yeah.
It is difficult. It's an invitation to practice self-compassion.
Yes. Yes. Self-compassion is a good word. Are you ready to spin the wheel a second time?
Yes, I'd love to.
Let's go. Okay, the category is finances. Because you talked a bit about the pandemic and what you've noticed with your finances, I think it's an interesting question. How do you balance saving for the future and enjoying life today?
Well, imperfectly is the theme of this conversation. Again, similar to my, I guess, self-care habit, this is something maybe I'm realizing about myself in this conversation, is that I really am someone who kind of goes up and down in different areas of my life. So yeah, I think in the early pandemic, I was single. I was living alone in a very affordable apartment, and I had worked my way up. I was making a good salary. And so when the discretionary spending went away, it made me realize, like, I do make enough money to live. There's no reason for me not to have savings. I think I was about 30 or on the edge of 30, and I didn't have a ton of debt, but I had some consumer debt and a line of credit. And I decided that I really wanted to pay that off and get serious about having some kind of future, because I was working in the private sector. I didn't have a pension. I didn't have anything like that. So my retirement was going to be my responsibility. I guess that's the case for all of us, but specifically the millennial experience is different from our parents' generation in that we don't have those corporate or government pensions. So I just looked into robo investing, to be honest. That was how I started. The whole thing felt so intimidating. I think that we all have money messages and money beliefs. It's actually a very like core and intimate thing. And my belief was that I was bad with money, that I was irresponsible. You're 30 years old, you have no savings, what are you doing? And so I could not imagine going into a bank and talking to them about my money and thinking that they would look in my bank accounts and see that, I had a couple $1,000s to my name. That was it till the next paycheck. So I went with Wealthsimple. It's not sponsored, but I just thought that they were the easiest, kind of most intuitive option. And I will say openly, like when I left my corporate role and that sort of rebound job that I took after, I had EI coming in and I had some sort of shorter term savings, but I did pull from that. And it was because I had built up that nest egg over the last 4-ish years that I was able to support myself and ramp this business back up. And I'm very fortunate that, my income is not exactly, I wouldn't say I've fully reached my corporate salary, but I'm quite close. And I'm very grateful for that. But sort of squirreling money away a little bit at a time, I saw the proof in the pudding. Like I was the use case of the person that then is able to have a little crash mat to land on when I was in a transitional phase. And I didn't hear people talking about this. I didn't know how much people were saving. So I just want to say, like, I, over the last 5 years, have been able to contribute as much as $1,000 every couple of weeks to $50, $20, and everywhere in between. And I have just scaled up and down my savings based on what I have available at any given time. But I was very mindful that I never wanted to stop saving. So even when I had basically no income coming in and was living off of savings, I did still take $20 or $30 or $40 of that income and continue to funnel it into that account, because that's just become sort of a non-negotiable for me, that something is going into savings. And it's not sexy, it's not flashy, but it's been life-changing. And again, we're at the tail end and there's more I could say, but I just think those money messages and those beliefs we have take a lot to break. I mean, there's a lot that goes into forming them. And so it was quite a process to unlearn. And I have so much farther to go and so much more that I want to accomplish. And I do still struggle with feeling like I'm behind sometimes, but allowing myself the freedom to think I could change the narrative about myself as it relates to personal finance was huge. That was probably the first big thing. And then, yeah, just the incremental saving, I think, is the oldest trick in the book, but it works.
Thank you for sharing this. I also feel that finances is a big question mark. I know what I do, and then you see other people, you see maybe what they own or what they spend on, but you actually never know if people have debts, if they have financial problems. It's hard to navigate. So I'm happy that we were able to talk about this. Yeah.
It's interesting because you're right. You never know if somebody has more debt than they appear to, or what their financial situation is. But I think there's actually even a second layer to that, which is like, maybe they do have no debt, or maybe they do have, a high net worth. But can we remove like a moral grading system from that? Like, why is someone who at the same age as you has more money or more debt or less money, are they better or worse as a person? Are they more or less successful? Like, you asked me, how do I define success? I mean, I think that there isn't just one metric for success. And unlearning that slowly and unraveling that, I think, has been valuable but difficult.
Yeah, this was a good point to highlight. I'm glad you did. I have so many more questions, but we're reaching the end of this interview, so I will just answer this question, which was, how do you balance saving for the future and enjoying life today? So I wish this question was asked probably 2 years ago or 1 year ago, when I wasn't such in a free fall. I'm also using Robo-Advisor and Wealthsimple, and I did have a really good saving automation system when I was a freelance graphic designer. I would, I think, take maybe 10% of each paycheck I would get automatically and invest it for long-term growth in Wealthsimple. But now that I'm in a free fall situation, I've completely stopped actually saving for the future, because the money coming in is inexistent and I'm working on it. So it's more money coming out. I was considering to keep investing my savings as if I was making an income, but I haven't gotten to it. So right now, I would say that I'm investing in my career, and this is not investing for my retirement, but because I use my savings to pay for my bills while I build my dream job. Yeah, I invest in my dream job with the idea that my dream job then will be a return on my investments in the future.
Are there any expenses that could technically be considered like extras that for you, even in this season, have been non-negotiables because they're good for you in some way? Like, I'm thinking about like, a gym membership or something that it costs money and technically you could eliminate it, but you've chosen not to because it's really important to you.
Yeah, I love this question. Oh my God. My logic makes zero sense. I have a gym condo, so I did cancel my gym membership, which was cheap, like $50 a month. And I was like, I didn't really like this gym, so I just was happy to remove it and go in my condo. Then for some reasons I love music, but Spotify, I'm sorry, Spotify didn't make the cut, so I listened to the ads. It's annoying. Right. I used to pay for the membership, but somehow this doesn't make the cut. I keep paying for Audible because I want to walk. I need to walk outside, and I'm in a season where I listen more to books than podcasts. So I'm paying for Audible. I pay for like proteins. Again, health is very important. So I pay for my protein powder and
and those are expensive, but for you, that's tied to your values and your goals. So it's worth every penny, I'm sure.
Exactly. And also coaching services or conferences I pay for. Yeah, I don't have a straight logic, but I make a deal with myself. So thank you for asking this question. So a question I love asking. So even though we're having a longer conversation than expected, because just I'm having too much fun, what is a recent win that you had in your personal or professional life that you would like us to celebrate with you?
Kind of in line with the self-care and measuring success by how I'm taking care of myself, I have started a modified version of the 75 hard challenge. I will say the actual sort of ethos and content out there in the world from the creator of this challenge, not necessarily something that I personally align with or want to tie myself to, just as like a caveat. But it was just a great foundation for, to build some structure in and to start something to challenge myself. And for me, it's really like about routine building and recultivating that self-trust that I can say I'm going to do something and do it and flex that muscle of follow through. So I'm on day 20.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It feels like there's a long way to go still, but I feel really proud of myself because I haven't been in a super solid personal routine for most of this year. I've had, a few blips here and there where I've tried to get something going, but this one feels like it's going to stick. And I've come a long way to be 20 days in. So I'm proud of that, and I'm excited to hopefully finish without having to restart.
And what are part of your version of the 75 hard challenge?
Yeah, so I'm doing one outdoor walk a day and one additional workout a day. I consume, as I said, a lot of content about like self-help, self-development, productivity. So I adopted the reading part to be just reading in general. It doesn't have to be self-help. I'm not drinking alcohol. The diet I'm following, I'm not someone who wants to have any kind of restrictive diet. I eliminated Uber Eats, which is also a financial fix in my life. And we decided to cut out potato chips because that's my kryptonite. And then, you have to drink a gallon of water. I'm doing 2 liters a day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, loosely inspired by, some people would call it, I guess, 75 soft. I'm just calling it my 75 days. I'm sure there's a purist out there that would say I can't call it 75 hard, but it's the inspiration.
Yeah, and it's almost 3 weeks, so that's amazing. It's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot.
Done.
But it's funny, like I've seen a lot of feedback saying that much structure wouldn't be good for someone. And I think that that's absolutely true. And self-trust and self-compassion is the whole thing. So for me right now, it feels really good. And I'm looking to have more energy and feel like I have more hours in the day. And so it feels really, really positive. I wouldn't continue with it if it felt restrictive or if it felt like it was something that was making me feel stressed or bad. I just think life's too short for that. So it's a mindful practice right now, and so far so good.
And you said it yourself. You started this challenge to rebuild confidence. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's maybe not forever, but it's what I've done when I came back from my trip to Italy as well. Of course, I had so many cannolis and pizza and gelatos, everything. So when I came back, I did a 2-week workout challenge, and it wasn't even a hard one. It was just to get in my head that I'm waking up and I'm doing a workout, 20, 30 minutes workout, just to show myself that I can be consistent. And I finished it last week.
Congrats.
And now, thank you. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can make it a bit harder now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing, Grace. And for my audience, who I'm sure will love this conversation, where can they learn more about you and your services?
So online, I am opsbygrace.com, which is OPSBYGRACE. And on Instagram, it's the same. So @opsbygrace.
Well, thank you so much, Grace. My feeling from this conversation is that I just want to have more and talk about everything, finances and systems. I loved learning more about how you set up your personal life, but also what you do with your business. I've learned a lot from this conversation, so thank you. And
thank you.
I hope we'll talk soon.
Yes, I think we should. A recurring convo.